Welcome back to the Outer Circle Inner Stillness, conversations and reflections on spirituality, sobriety, and oftentimes sexuality too, because that's just sometimes where we land. So we are offering commentary on the book by Andrew Williams, From Object to Icon, The Struggle for Spiritual Vision in a Pornographic World. As mentioned, I've been leading a book study through this book, and it's been great. And these discussions are a supplement to that study. In the study, we talk about what the book is saying, and here in these conversations, we're talking about how ought we to respond to the book. So for context, go check out all of that other material. So we're recognizing that pornography and iconography are very much opposites. We have the potential for this very healing relationship with the Lord Jesus through his people, through his holy icons, through his saints, in learning to both see the whole other person and to be seen as a whole other person. And the pornographic mindset breaks the other person apart and sees only a part of the other person, using that part for one's own pleasure, while not bringing any of one's own self to that encounter. And it becomes a meeting of parts, a fragmentation of people, and very destructive. So then, last time we talked about, well, as an individual, how do I respond to that? And right now, we'll be talking about how to respond to this within a dyad or a coupleship. I would like to expand that a little bit into friendships also. This definitely is for married people, courting people, dating people, and things. But I think there's also a space for this in close friendships as well, and in non-close friendships, honestly, too, because this has to do with how I, as a person, encounter you as another person. And I would think that these things are necessary whether or not we are in a long-term committed relationship, but become exponentially more important the closer and the more committed our relationship is. That said, what should our relational response to pornography be? So we must keep in mind that a relationship is really about a revealing and a seeing. I am opening myself up to be seen, to be known, and seeking to know and to see you as well. And there are extremes of we keep ourselves covered, we keep ourselves masked. There are other extremes where I become the voyeur and I'm watching, I'm probing to exploit you or to use what I know about you for my own good pleasure. And also ways where I might just be throwing out my inner guts because that's doing something for me. So those are two extremes we need to be careful of. And what I'm going to attempt to do is thread the balance. One way you can recognize that balance is if it's gentle, if it's connected, if it's connective, if it's driven by compassion and done in this calm way rather than in any sort of frenzied, agenda pressured way. Those are some considerations. Some things to remember about seeing one another. So we always see imperfectly or incompletely. We see the masks on another person, which sometimes are veils, depending on how the person relates to the other thing. Again, Williams uses the language of masks. I love that. It really brings out this point of this is not me. This is my false self. This is something separate. This is an add-on. I also really love the language from Internal Family Systems about the parts. Parts really conveys a sense of they're functional, they're adaptive, they do something, they have a role. And so I'll probably be going interchangeably back and forth between talking about our masks and talking about our parts. We talk about parts softening to let go of their burdens and to be more gentle in the roles. We talk about masks being softened into veils that, rather than hiding us, begin to reveal us and reveal something about us. It is very important to remember that these masks, these parts, all have a story. At one point, they were adaptive for survival. And even currently, they might be protecting some pain and some need. And pretending the need is not there doesn't help. Eliminating the need isn't possible. And so, in a sense, eliminating the mask or eliminating the part altogether is also not possible. But the meeting of the need is possible. The healing of the pain is possible. And then the mask can soften into a veil. the part can relax and doesn't need to show up as much. That's a lot of work. Again, that's where like a lot of, psychotherapy work happens in the, how we address that pain. That's a whole big conversation, talk to a counselor or talk to a priest. But it is important to remember that our masks are there for a reason. We're not just crazy, awful people. Encountering other people's masks and parts is often painful, or at the very least, it can be disconnective. In clinical terms, so we'll talk about becoming activated when we encounter someone else's mask. And that could be anything from like, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel scared, or to get really nerdy, my nervous system becomes aroused to the presence of a potential threat and begins to arm my system for fight, for flight, for fixing, for fawning, for freezing, for getting away, for surviving. For another interesting read, talk to your counselor or someone smart about the polyvagal theory, and you can learn all about the brain and the nervous system. It is really fascinating. But that's part of what happens when I encounter a part of the other person that isn't their true self. I encounter someone's angry part. I encounter someone's agenda part. I encounter someone's critical or controlling part, or something, or maybe even some of the parts that they can't control. Like I encounter someone's skin color, or someone's political orientation, or someone's body shape, or someone's relational style, and something about I have a part that doesn't like it for some reason. I have a part that gets activated, and what we can remember. And this is important to remember, is that anytime I'm encountering a part of you that I don't like, what that is an opportunity for me to learn something about my own self. Part of me is having a problem with a part of you. And why is that? I can know that. I can learn that. I can stop and think and wonder and pray and get to know, well, what is the part of me that is having a problem with you? What is a part of me that is needing you to change for me to be okay? If I can identify that part, deeper beneath that part is myself, my true self, the image of God in me, who is able to be with you, whoever you are, and all of your parts. If I am able to be in my true self, I can see you through the eyes of compassion. I can be calm with you. I can be gentle. I can be curious. I can be patient and loving and kind and enduring and steadfast. And maybe not understand you intellectually. That often happens. And there are also ways I may disagree with choices you're making, feel concerned about behaviors you're doing. But if I'm seeing from my core self, I will also be able to spot in you somewhere is your true self, and that is the one that I love. That is the one that I want to be with, and that is the eventual meeting of the true selves is motivation to be with you and your whole system, and to befriend you and your whole system and get to know you. If I can be in myself, and I can hope that you can be in that self also. If we can both do that, it's going to be great. If either of us are having problems, it'll be more work, but it's still possible. But all that to say, when we encounter other people's parts and other people's masks, it can be activating and it can be stressful, but it's important to remember that that is not the whole other person. That is one of their masks. And we need to recognize a mask as a mask. And when we talk about being non-judgmental or judging not, it means not condemning a person for what masks they wear, but being discerning about what's going on, but also being curious to see, okay, but who is the real person? Who is the real person really? Something we notice is that there are parts and masks we use to keep ourselves hidden from others, and they're these very, very functional parts. There's also parts of us that we keep hidden even from ourselves. In the IFS tradition, we call these exiles. And we can say a lot about the relationship between an exile part and a protector part. And protectors will do lots of things to keep their exiles safe until they are assured that the exiles will be cared for. And so again, if I'm meeting you and I meet one of your protector parts, probably that will be the first thing that I meet are some of your protector parts, some of your manager parts, some of your more, your non-lethal masks that just, are part of your personality. Those are there for a reason. And when they're stronger, more pronounced, then that might mean like you have a hidden part that's maybe in considerable pain of some sort. And it's possible that exile can be known and can be healed and can be loved. But it's also a journey to get there. And what I need to do then is to be patient with you and to allow time to earn your trust, which takes time and work, but is worth it. I think it's very worth it. So we've said a lot about, encountering the other person's masks as having a context and a story. We should always be asking ourselves, what keeps us from being curious about that story? Or what would it be like if I moved toward that, just to get to know it? Again, not to agree with, not to understand intellectually. Those are all heady exercises, but to be with, to be curious about, to gently move towards. These things are possible. When encountering another person in the internal family systems world, we say speak for your parts, not speak from your parts. Or we could say speak for your mask, not, don't speak through the mask. It'd be a little bit like if I use the metaphor of a castle, if the true self is the noble, the lord or the lady up in the castle, then a visiting emissary might first meet the captain of the guard or the team of archers, or like the chef or someone who meets them at the gate. And that part will be very vocal and very active in filtering who gets in or not. And it's important to remember, as you get to know your own system, to recognize your parts will want to speak for you. Your masks will want to do your relationship work for you. As much as possible, don't let them. Speak on behalf of your parts. This part of me is feeling this. Part of me is feeling this. I'm seeing you through this mask, this lens that is owning up to what your assumptions and your experiences are. And if you can own that and be open with that, it makes what you have to say, and it makes your experience a little bit gentler and just a little removed from who you are. You're not relinquishing responsibility for it, but you are allowing that I am not my parts. I am not my opinions. I am not my needs. I'm not my wounds. I'm not my reflexes. I am responsible for all of them, but I'm also able to speak on behalf of them. And in so doing, speak from self, speak from that place of calm and compassion and curiosity. Yes, our parts and reflexes and wounds and inclinations and desires can feel so close and so huge that they seem like the whole of us, but it's not true. Through curiosity, we can unblend from our parts and detach from the masks. Our masks affect how we are seen and color how we see others. If I am seeing someone with anything other than total openness and compassion, then I've discovered another one of my own masks. And it might not be bad or out of place. Again, our masks are adaptive. But I need to remember that my masks are the way that I see the world that is distinct to me. And I need to know what that is and why that is. And I also need to recognize that you probably have your own distinct way of seeing the world. And in some cases, neither of us is wrong. We're just different. And the relationship encounters to be curious with each other. And again, the pornographic mindset would be for me to fixate on this part of you that I am annoyed by or don't like, or I might say like, you're your political orientation and nothing else, or you're this thing that you voted on, or you're this, skin color person, or you're this, parenting style, or you're this, you like this show or something, and like make you like a one issue person. And I miss out on like the complete whole of the person when I do that, because I have fixated and fetishized like one particular part of you that I don't like. And that's revealing a part of my own self more than anything. So in that, again, we need to recognize that there are these masks and there are these parts that we all wear, and work to see past them. In addition to sometimes getting offended by other people's masks, we should also work to recognize when we want to try to fix or change another person's mask. And we can ask ourselves, especially in the case of someone's having feelings around us, feelings, those pesky feelings, so-and-so is feeling sad around you, or feeling angry around you, or feeling dismal, or feeling excited, or feeling optimistic, or feeling playful. I should be asking myself, is it okay with me if this person is feeling this way? Or do I feel a need to change them? In particular, do I feel a need to cheer them up? If I feel like I am needing to change you or change what you're feeling, then guess what? I've discovered another mask or another part of myself. And again, I want to speak on behalf of that, not from that, because when I speak from parts, I'm more likely to hurt you more. So more on how do we respond to each other? How do we respond to the way that the pornographic mindset filters into our relationships? So we've talked a lot about this revealing of oneself, which means first knowing oneself, and of seeing the other person, which takes a lot of curiosity. There's a respect component in there also. Obviously, maintain that, respect the boundaries of the other person. The other person is a sacred life form, and there's lots of ways to be connected that are non-violating, and we need to seek these out. The person has needs, the person has limits. You respect those. You always respect those. But seeing the other person, it really is key here. So like we've said, practice curiosity. Curiosity undoes fantasy. It's very easy to fantasize about a person. Obviously, pornography proper really facilitates this, really builds up, here's this image, this enhanced image, this artificial image, this very unrealistic, unsustainable image. And it's easy to fixate on that as an ideal. Or it's easy to say to a real life person, here's this particular part of me that I like, here's this body part that I like, here's this thing that you do for me, here's this thing that you make me feel. Here's this achievement that I like. I love that you are in drama and you get lead roles in all of these plays. I love that you are a really great student, oh child of mine. I love that you make lots of money and drive nice cars, oh boyfriend of mine. I love that you, whatever it is. It's really easy to make idols out of people by, ripping a part out of them and saying, this is what I love about the person. But to be curious, to wonder about, well, who is the rest of this person? And to be gently pursuing that understanding. That is the opposite of fantasy. And that connects you to reality, the reality of who that person is. Like we've said again, what offends me in you is something to discover in me. And in all of this, our attitude should be to venerate the other, similarly to the way we would venerate an icon. Maybe not with a holy kiss all of the time. That gets odd in some settings. But again, seeing in every person, there is the image of God. And I want to venerate and honor and give credit to what that is. That can mean looking for strengths in other people and in what they do, and assuming helpful intent, and to also look for what God is teaching you in every encounter with a person. If the pornographic response is to make relationships shallow by making them all about just like, here's these parts of ourselves that we like, and we can keep ourselves in this, superficial friend zone, a good response to that is to pursue deeper relationships, which means pursuing deeper knowledge of the other, which means asking hard questions, which means sometimes asking probing questions, as you build trust and as you can do it in a way that makes sense. And this also means repairing ruptures. Conflicts come up and we hurt each other anyway, despite our best efforts. It's really easy to say, oh, that person hurt me, I don't like them, I'm writing them out of my life. They become a thing in that way. But when I say, no, this person, who this is inherently valuable on their own, regardless of what they do, then to repair the rupture and to reunite with that person is one of the most sacred things you can do. Also one of the most difficult, but worthwhile, for it is also one of the most sacred things you can do. On a very practical level, we can talk about listening well, listening with curiosity. Active listening is hearing openly without judgment, being able to reflect back what the person is saying. Poor listening is quietly planning your response while the other person is still talking. Also, don't try to save people from their feelings. Feelings are good. They're messengers. They're part of the inner tools that God has given us to understand ourselves and understand the world. Instead, when someone's having feelings, you can ask them more about the feelings they're having. And when that feels complete, you can ask them what they need. All that to say, there's maybe a lot more nuance we could unpack about that, but that kind of captures the gist of it. The relational response to pornography, to the pornographic mindset, has a lot to do with connecting more with people, connecting more deeply, and connecting in a way that is mutually reveals and mutually sees, and does so in a way that is gentle and kind and compassionate and confident. And if we do this, I think that we will experience something really great, and we'll find some really deep treasures in who we are and who God is making us to be. These things can all be very difficult, so it's good to have some guidance. And for that, again, there's plenty of resources. You can reach out to me here on the podcast, reach out to your priest, your pastor, your counselor, your mentor, reach out to your friends. These are this is a relationship experience, a relationship challenge, so it's not meant to be done alone. We need relationships to heal from relationship wounds. But that is that. So that was part 2 of this series, talking about responses to the pornographic mindset in the world as introduced in this book by Andrew Williams. We will be back with more thoughts. If you're interested in the book club or further supporting the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/outercircle and subscribe and then share the podcast and rate it and review it. All of that is very helpful to me. Thank you very much. And I will talk with you soon.